Amen, amen. How we doing this morning, church? Come on. Y'all acting like we didn't have the celebration choir out here this morning. How are we doing this morning? There it is. There it is. What'd y'all think about last week? I tried to warn you. Everybody was like, man, you didn't tell us it's going to be like this. Yes, I did. I said, cancel your vacation, get up, make sure you don't miss this. It's going to be amazing. I'm so proud of so many people to help bring that vision to life. I was going to do just read a bunch of names, but that would be terrible because, one, I'm going to forget somebody's name. And there were so many people that touched this project to help bring it to life. We actually had to break it up into 3 separate teams. We had a block party that handled all the setup and the tear up and the decorations of the campus, all the check-ins, all the activities in the lawn and the century stations and we actually had a family that brought that fancy 50s car, and I told them that was the cherry on the top right there. That was like the bing. That thing was beautiful. And then we had a storytelling team. The storytelling team was a team of photographers, historians, writers, archivists, those that organized all the artifacts, a designer that created all of the displays and the visual timeline that you see out here in the corridor. Then we had a history experience team. This was several teams that brought each area to life. These were some hosts that guided us through the experience. This is a shout out to the team that ran the 5950 bar. Right? My high schoolers they brought the bar to life. That was amazing. Anybody get to enjoy the flavors? What was your favorite flavors, by the way? The pineapple was great. The Promised Land Punch. That thing sold out fast. My favorite was the Jonah Splash. That was the Jonah fish, the big fish, yeah. So yeah, all the volunteers that brought to life. We had several people that came here weeks before just setting up and building all these experiences. So I would not do a disservice. I would do a disservice if I tried to name off everybody that touched this project. So here's what I would love to do. If you touched it at all, and I know a lot of you did, can you just please stand up so we can recognize you and we celebrate and thank you publicly for everything? Come on. I know you don't want to. Thank you. Stand up. Stand up. Thank you. I know there's more of you. Got Skippy the Clown in the house too. That was, man. I know a lot of you that did a lot of hours that didn't stand up. I see you sitting there just not standing. I appreciate you. I'm so proud. I'm so proud. It was such a beautiful moment in our church, and movements are made in moments, and I believe that was a moment for us as a church. For the last 6 weeks, we've been spending a lot of time looking back and celebrating God's faithfulness. We've been remembering the stories, honoring the people and celebrating their sacrifice. We've walked through 75 years of just God showing up again and again. But I told you from the beginning, we don't look back to go back. We look back to have hope for our future. We look back because remembering God's faithfulness builds our faith as we move forward towards His promise. Because the same God who was faithful then is faithful now. Because He remains faithful, because He has shown up time and time again, writing the pages of our story, the question remains, what does God's faithfulness then require of us now? He showed up then for them. How is He going to show up for us now? And what does that require of us now? What part of the Park Crest legacy do we carry with us forward and leave for future generations? History can become a museum or it can become a mandate. Remembering can either paint a picture that preserves the past or paint a picture of a preferred future. And the only way we do that is by asking the question, what are we going to do with what's been given to us? What's been handed to us? The whole reason I wanted you to experience and immerse yourself into the stories of Parkcrest past is to help us identify what part of our legacy do we carry forward. Legacy is not simply what previous generations leave us behind. Legacy is the faithfulness that we pass forward. So the question I have, and the question I'm going to keep asking for the next 6 weeks, what will our legacy be? What are they going to be saying about us in 75 years? What will future generations remember about us? And this isn't just a question for Parkcrest. This is a question for you. This is a question for you. How will you be remembered? What legacy are you leaving? What will future generations look like because of the life that you lived in your home, in your community, in your families? My pastor and mentor taught me something very important years ago about this life that God has entrusted us with. He said that each person has 3 options for their life. The first option is you can waste your life. Go ahead and put that on the board. You can waste your life. You could do nothing with it. This really isn't living. This is just existing. This is drifting. This is just reacting to what's happening to you. Days become years without you ever even asking the question, why do I exist? What's the purpose for my life? Why does any of this matter? Many people live in this place of existing, just existing day to day. Nothing really to show for. This level of human flourishing is called survival. Survival is the first level of human flourishing. And this isn't talking about surviving, cancer and sickness and grief and depression and hard seasons of life. This is not talking about that. This isn't talking about difficulties. This is talking about direction. People in survival have no direction. They have no purpose. Therefore, they end up wasting their life just being. The next option you can do with your life is you can spend your life. This is where most people live. They spend their time, their talent, and their treasure on temporary things that don't last. People spend their time building wealth and building careers and accumulating things that don't last. This level is called success. Many people spend their life chasing success, and they're very successful at it. The problem is, successful life can still be a wasted life. Sure, you can accomplish a lot of cool things and do a lot of impressive things and accumulate a lot of good things. But if none of it has eternal value, it's a waste. Paul says in 1 Corinthians 3 that one day that the life that you build is going to be tested with eternal fire. And if the thing that you build, the life that you built, is temporal instead of eternal, you will be saved, but everything that you built will be burnt up. He actually says the builder will be saved, but like someone barely escaping through a wall of flames. I just have this picture of somebody getting to the doorsteps of heaven. Everything in their life is burnt up, and they're all like, yo, whew, I just barely made it. Whew, put that, Because everything you built was burnt up. It was wasted. You built a lot of beautiful things with no eternal value. The only way that you can get to the third and highest level of human flourishing is when you recognize that this world can never truly satisfy your eternal shaped heart. And when you realize this, you stop wasting your life and you stop spending your life and you start investing your life. You invest your life in things that will last. This level is called significance. Significance is when you realize how valuable your life truly is. When you realize that God has given you this one and only one life to steward well. Significance is investing what is temporal for the things that are eternal. This happens when you understand that deep within every single person, there's this longing for something greater than ourselves. You were made for more than survival. You were made for more than success. You were made for significance. You were made for more. Solomon was the wisest man to ever live. And he actually talks about this in the book of Ecclesiastes. At this point in Solomon's life, he's old. He's seasoned. Some calls him bitter. I call it beautiful because he's seen a lot. He's experienced a lot. He knows a lot. And he's asking the same question that many of us ask today. Look what he says in Ecclesiastes 3, and we're going to start at verse 9. He says this: what do workers gain from their toil, from their labor? What is all of this actually producing? You live, you work, you build, you accumulate, you accomplish. And then what? What is this for? Right? We climb to the top of this mountain of success and we still feel unsatisfied. Some of the most successful billionaires, the top 0.001% of the world, get to the very top, have everything, and they still are asking the question, there's got to be more. There's got to be something more than this. Here's why. Let's look what he says. Verse 10, I have seen the burden God has laid on the human race. He has made everything beautiful in its time. This is important that you understand what he's saying. What is he saying? Temporary things aren't necessarily bad. This is important that you understand this, because Solomon is not telling you to hate your job. He's not telling you to sell your stuff and sell your home and stop enjoying your life and your things. He's saying those things are gifts from God. The problem is when we ask temporary gifts to satisfy an eternal hunger. Because look what he says. He goes on to verse 11, which is the anchor text for this entire series. He says this: he also sets eternity in the human heart. Some translation says he's given us an appetite for eternity. There's something inside us, there's something inside you that this world will never fully satisfy. You were designed for something this world cannot produce, cannot fully provide. God gave you this eternal shaped heart. You are created in his likeness as eternal beings, made for eternity with eternal appetites. So no matter what you do, no matter how successful you are, it will never fully satisfy, because your soul will always be hungered for more, because you were made for more. That is your design. That is how he created you. And he goes on to say this: yet no one can fathom what God has done from the beginning to the end. I know that there is nothing better for people than to be happy and to do good while they live, that each of them may eat and drink and find satisfaction in all their toil. This is a gift from God. These are gifts. He wants you to be happy. He enjoys seeing you happy. He gives you these temporal things as gifts that gives you happiness. Then he goes on to say in verse 14, I know that everything God does will endure forever. Nothing can be added to it. Nothing taken from it. If God has put eternity in the human heart and everything God does endures forever, then wisdom says to invest your temporary life in what God is doing eternally. Invest my life in things that will outlive my life, that will last beyond my life, the things that will last forever. Made for more is not an invitation to do more. In fact, some of you are already doing too much. This is an invitation to live differently, to live intentionally, to stop measuring your life by what you accomplish, and begin asking the question, what actually matters? What will live? What will outlast me? What actually lasts? And begin investing your life in those things. This might be one of the most exciting things we've ever created as a church. Last fall, we launched Impossible Unity. That was the first time we created something by us and for us, and I was so proud of the team for creating it. It was an amazing moment. Like I said, movements are created in moments, and I believe that was a moment in our church. But this right here is going to change the trajectory of our church. This is going to do something in our church. Is going to change us forever. Made for More is not just another series. This is not just another study. This is not just a workbook. For the next 6 weeks, we're going to be on this journey of discovering your greatest kingdom impact, your greatest kingdom contribution. I want every single one of us here to discover why you were created and discover your kingdom contribution, the thing that you can invest the rest of your life towards. That's what we're going to do for the next 6 weeks. We're going to actually develop individual kingdom life plans, which this is an invitation for every person to be intentional with the kind of life that they're building, a life that has eternal impact. And whether you're new to the faith or you've been following Jesus for decades, this experience is going to help you help answer one of the most important questions in your life. How has God uniquely designed you to participate in his eternal mission? How can you invest the rest of your life on things that will last? Each week in this book, in addition to our weekly sermon, you're going to have a weekly devotion with reflection. You're going to have a weekly discussion for your group, and you're going to have a weekly discovery. This is an exercise that helps you develop and discern what God is calling you to, what God has shaped you and created you for. This will ultimately lead to this legacy statement, this vision statement for your life. And even in the back, we have a little dashboard to help you monitor and measure. Look, I tried to find something to steal and rip off and use, and I couldn't find anything out there like this. And so we had to create one just for us, for this moment. And that's what we did. And I need you to hear me. I need you to hear me what I'm about to say. This is one of those series that if you miss 3 weeks, you're not going to get the same experience. If you fall behind and you just watch clips online and you don't do the work, you're not going to get the same experience. Each week builds on itself. Each discovery builds on the last. Each discussion that you have with your group helps you discern what God is revealing to you. So here's my encouragement. I will say, here's my challenge to you. Give God 6 weeks. Give him 6 weeks. Be here on the weekends. Bring your book. Do the devotions. Complete the discovery. Students, don't hang out with your friends for an hour and do this work. I know school's in session, but find time to do this, because this will be don't make the mistake I made and wait years to discover what God created you to do. And here's the other thing. Be in a life group. If you're not in a life group, find a life group, start a life group. This is very important because discernment belongs in community. You need to be surrounding around yourself around people who know you. Calling becomes clear when the people that you know and the people that know you call the things out in you, the things that they see in you, and hold you accountable to the things that you say. This happens in community. If you can't find a group, then our men's and women's ministries are putting on groups here on campus. You can join. You don't need to know anybody. Just come and be a part. Invest yourself in this journey. But before we begin this journey, we need to start with vision. We need to start with vision. Because before you build anything, you got to start with the end in mind. Proverbs 29:18 says, where there's no vision, people perish. Most translation says, where there's no vision, people cast off restraints. Meaning, biblical vision is not merely action plans and goals. Biblical vision is receiving enough clarity from God that governs the way you live, governs the way you move. Vision gives conviction to your yeses and your nos. A divine revelation from the Lord protects the quality of your commitments. When you know where God is leading you, you know what you cannot afford to give your life to. Vision produces focus. Divine revelation helps you recognize the difference between opportunities and assignments. This is why it's very important for every single one of us to have a vision for your life, a vision for your marriage, a vision for your career, for your ministry. Vision is very important. Habakkuk teaches us something very important about vision. He says this, Habakkuk 2, we're going to start at verse 1, read through 3. He says this, I will stand at my guard posts and station myself on my watchtower, and I will keep watch to see what he will say to me and how I will reply when I'm reprimanded. Now, I want you to see his posture here. Look at the way he's postured in this statement. Look at his readiness to receive. He says, I will stand at my watch. And then he goes on to say, I will look and see what he will say to me. So it starts with readiness, and then it moves to looking and listening. Then God says, write down the vision and make it clear on tablets so that one who reads it may run. In other words, when God gives you a picture, steward it. When God gives you a vision, take care of it, care for it. And the best way you can steward a God-given vision is to write it down and continue to write it down until it becomes clearer and clearer. That's what we're doing throughout this journey. This whole book is every single week you're writing it down. You're helping discern what God is saying. And by the end of this, we're going to have a God-given vision for your life. And part of your responsibility is to write down this kingdom vision for your life so that you have focus, so you move with clarity and conviction. But look at what comes next. This is the part that we don't like when it comes to vision. He says, for the vision is yet for the appointed time. It hurries towards the goal, and it will not fail. Though it delays, wait for it. We don't like to wait. We're like, God, give me the vision. Just tell me just tell me. I'm tired of learning. I'm ready to receive. Right? We don't like to wait. It says, for it will certainly come, it will not delay long. God is teaching us how vision works here. He says, first, be ready to receive. Then look and listen. Then write it down. And then wait. Vision, in a lot of ways, work a lot like a Polaroid. Now, I don't know how to work this Polaroid, but let me see if I know how to work it. There we go. Okay, so vision is not a lot like taking a picture with a Polaroid picture. Let's take a picture together. Let's everybody, let me back up a little bit. Let me try to get everybody in. All right, everybody say cheese. Cheese. Ah, there we go. I got it working. All right, hold on. So vision is kind of like this. Vision sometimes comes instantly, but clarity usually doesn't. We wait. And you get a glimpse of something. God gives you a picture of something, and you start looking at the thing, and you don't really see it yet. And you have to wait for it until it becomes clear. And what do we do when we wait for our Polaroid picture? We shake it. We're like, come on, God, hurry up. I got things to do. I'm ready. Let's go. Let's make this happen. Why isn't this clear yet? Let's do this. Let's move faster. By the way, do you understand that doing this does nothing for it? It doesn't move any faster when you shake your Polaroid picture. It develops the same amount of time as you sitting there. We think God is developing this picture, but in reality, God is developing you. You're waiting on clarity of your vision and call, and God is waiting for you to be able to receive your call. God is waiting for you to be able to carry this vision. He's waiting on you to become strong enough to carry the vision He's giving you, to make sure you're tender enough to care for the vision the way He would care for it, to make sure you're wise enough to steward the vision that He's giving you. Sometimes God shows you just enough to get you moving towards it, to make you take that first faithful step. And sometimes He shows you just enough to increase your capacity for it, to redirect your heart and your prayer life towards it. And He prepares you. And every single time that He's revealing more and more of that vision, He is producing more and more of Himself in you. And as you wait for greater clarity, the picture begins to get clearer and clearer. That's how vision works. I had to learn this lesson. This is a lesson that God had to teach me. Long before I was ever your pastor, God gave me a picture that I've been carrying for over 2 years. Now, I've told the elders this. I don't think I've ever talked about this publicly, but in my process of discerning this, my next step in my call, my next assignment, I was at Saddleback for 12 years, and there was a season of my life that I did not hear God's voice. And now, you need to know something about me. I depend on hearing God's voice. I'm desperate to hear God's voice. When I don't hear God's voice, I am useless. Like one of my superpowers is faith. I'm like Peter. Peter's like, Lord, tell me to get out the boat and I'll walk on water. Who cares about physics? I'm going to do what you said because you told me to do it. So I'm going to do it. That's how I am. Like I have that dumb, crazy faith. If God says, I do. I don't care about physics. But if I don't hear God's voice, I'm useless. I have zero confidence. And so for a period of my time, I was asking God, Lord, what are you calling me to? I know my time here is over, but I don't see the path forward. What are you calling me to? And during this time, which is crazy, I had several opportunities coming at me that I did not ask for. It's not like I had a resume out there, but all these opportunities from all over the country was coming at me. And none of them was speaking to me. God was not speaking through any of those opportunities. But on one day, actually on my birthday, I'm sitting in my backyard and I get a call from a friend talking about this church in Long Beach. And he says, hey, they reached out to me and see if I was interested in the job. And now I told him, I don't think it's me, but I think I know who it is. And he calls me and he says, I think you need to take this call. And I took the call. And it was like instant excitement. It was like something just sparked and woke up in me. And that following week, I went up to my friend's church in LA. You guys know him, Pastor Tom Kang. He's preached here a few times. I went up to his church. I was preaching in his church that week. And on my way back home, I decided Sunday afternoon to just drive on this campus. This is long before I even started the interview process, y'all. The elders didn't even meet me yet. And I drive on the campus. And I tell you what, after a long season of silence, I heard God's voice. I stepped foot on this campus, and it was like this download of vision. For the first time, I heard his voice, and it was like I started seeing pictures, and he started showing and sharing things, and it was overwhelming. And I got emotional. And I've been carrying these thoughts and these visions like this Polaroid, just waiting for it to become more clear and clear before I can share it. And I've been holding this for at least 2.5 years before it becomes clear. And some of it I have shared little bits and pieces. Some of it I've kept to myself. And if I'm being honest, some of it I was afraid to share because some of it's crazy. But after celebrating 75 years of God's faithfulness, I think it's time to share it. You guys want to hear it? Yeah. So here's the picture that God began to show me over 2 years ago. This is the vision that God has given me for Park Crest. I see a church where people who are far from God discover that they are deeply loved by Him. I see the waters of baptism moving again and again as children, students, young adults, men, women, skeptics, seekers, and people who thought they were too far gone surrender to King Jesus and follow Him into the waters of a baptized life. I see a church where nobody follows Jesus alone, where rooted is not simply a class people complete. It's the beginning of a life deeply planted in the soil of God's grace, where people are known, loved, challenged, and formed in community. I see a place where thousands, yes, thousands of people grow in relationship with Jesus, grow up towards Christ, and grow out on mission with Christ as sent people fulfilling their God-given purpose in this world. I see a beautiful multi-ethnic, multi-generational church family where our unity is our witness and our diversity is our strength in a divided world. I see a church body where every person is discovering their unique God-given contribution and playing their part, joining God in His mission in this world. I see a beautiful and vibrant campus, alive every day of the week, designed to minister to the total person spiritually, emotionally, physically, and socially, while releasing kingdom impact. I see a new worship center where over 1,000 can gather at a time to worship Jesus, hear the gospel, and encounter his love. I see a new ministry center where small and medium-sized gathering spaces are filled throughout the week with Bible studies and retreats and courses and trainings and labs where ordinary people are equipped for extraordinary impact. I see a leadership academy where we're raising up pastors and influencers and educators and entrepreneurs, artists, counselors, community and business leaders who carry the character and wisdom of Jesus into every sphere of society. I see a campus with beautiful and peaceful gardens, places of prayer where people can slow down long enough to hear the voice of God and feel his presence. I see a dream center where the imagination of the next generation is released, a place to experience the arts visually, the music and sounds, video and storytelling, technology and engineering, a collaborative space where young minds can explore the creativity of a creative God, discover their gifts, and receive vision for their life. I see a youth and sports center that becomes a place for ministry, mentorship, belonging, and hope. I see a community and outreach center dedicated to serving the real needs of Long Beach in practical and profound ways. I see a Park Crest church stretching far beyond our walls. I see sent people stretching out into our neighborhoods, our cities, and surrounding communities, and all around the world to spread the hope of Jesus. I see over 100 out ministries birthed by the dreams, the decisions, and the design of our members, serving the hurting and the hopeless. I see some of those ministries growing beyond Parkcrest, becoming independent nonprofits and organizations and movements that create new ways to serve people and expand his kingdom. We will not need to control everything that God gives birth here. We will bless it. We will resource it. And when the time is right, we will release it. Because I see Parkcrest being a church that sends. I see 10 church plants in the next 10 years. I see Parkcrest being an exporter of courageous diversity, taking what God is teaching us and giving it away, training churches and organizations and leaders around the country to build communities that better reflect the beauty and the complexity of the kingdom of God. I see sacrificial generosity being one of the greatest testimonies of this church. I see us releasing more than $2 million beyond our walls to strengthen and support local and global partners that uniquely care for people in need and spread the hope of Jesus around the world. We will not be a church that gathers people simply to build Parkcrest. Parkcrest will be a church that builds people and releases them to build the kingdom. That means some people will be called to Parkcrest, and some people will be called through Parkcrest. Sometimes we'll develop leaders who leave to plant churches. Sometimes we'll help birth ministries that eventually no longer belong to us. Sometimes we'll send, but sometimes sending will cost us people and talent and money and our comfort. And we will send anyways. Because Jesus did not call us to build an institution around ourselves. He called us to make disciples. Disciples who serve. Disciples who give. Disciples who go. Disciples who bring the kingdom near. Who participate in the work of reconciling people back to God's love. I don't know every step between here and there. I don't know which ministries come first or exactly how this campus will take shape. I don't know every person that God will bring and every door he will close or open. But I do know the kind of church I believe God is calling us to become. A church that spreads hope. A church that helps people connect to Jesus and each other. A church that brings people in, builds people up, and sends people out. A church that measures success not merely by how many people we can gather, but by how many kingdom lives we can release. A church that remembers that legacy has been entrusted to us and faithfully carry that legacy forward to the future. A church that courageously invests its life in what lasts. That is the Park Crest Church that I see. And today, I finally say this out loud. I finally say this with great and expected faith, that by the grace of God, I believe this vision will become a reality before Parkcrest turns 100. Why? Because God is faithful and God is good. The God who was faithful for the first 75 years is faithful now. The same God that was faithful then is faithful today. The same God that did it before can do it again. The same God who worked through the people who came before us is ready to work through us. They carried the baton to us. Now it's our turn. And I hope you're ready. I want you to watch this and sing with us, and I'll come up and close.